And we're good.
Okay, great. Hey guys, I hope everybody's doing well, holding up. I know we're kind of getting to the peak of what we have left that we can stand, but continuing to make efforts every day. Today it's a little bit less cardio. We're not doing Tabata, so just strength and stability focused. I will give options for regressions if you need something a little bit simpler today, or sometimes I will give an option to make things a little bit more challenging as well. So let's start warming up. We're going to start with straight leg kicks. So we're here standing and you're just kicking, keeping the leg nice and straight. You don't have to come quite so high. If you can touch your toes, that's great. That gives you a reference point. Try not to hunch over to meet your toes. If you can only come here, that's totally fine. Just getting a nice stretch in the hamstrings. And if you want to kind of add a little more power into your kick, that will really kind of open things up in the back of the hips and down the back of the leg. Just give me about 5 or 6 on each side. And we're going to come down into scorpion stretch. So we're in a low lunge position. Here we're going to get hip circles in both, not scorpion, Spider-Man. Hip circles in both directions. Circling in and out. Circling from the hip of the leg that's back, of course. Opening up the hip flexor. As many circles as you need till you feel like things are opened up. And then you're going to take your inside arm, the arm that's closest to the leg that's forward, and you're going to reach out and up, opening up the chest. Stopping in any areas that feel tight. Not forgetting to breathe. And then we're going to switch sides. You can just switch out your legs. Getting hip circles again in both directions. And then when you're ready, adding your reach with the inside arm. Reaching out and up. And then we're going to do some adductor rock backs. So we're here. One leg is out to the side. The other leg we're sitting on the heel. The leg that's straight out to the side, toes are up to the sky. When we're in this position, sitting on the back heel, we're going to drop the chest forward. The more forward that you can bring your hands, the more you'll feel the stretch in your inner thigh and your hamstrings here. Trying to drop the chest to the floor as much as you can, but not to a point where it feels uncomfortable, just till you feel a light stretch. Keeping the neck nice and neutral, and then you're going to walk your hands forward. As you come forward, drawing the shoulder blades down and back, the back leg straightens out. The toes of the leg that's out to the side come to the floor. You're drawing shoulder blades down and back, driving this back knee into the floor, adding pressure there so that you feel a stretch in the front of the quad. Breathing deeply. And then rocking back and forth once you have that movement down. Rocking back and forth 3 or 4 times. Being mindful of the back knee. Not putting too much pressure. If anything hurts, then just come out of it. And switching sides when you're ready. Sitting on the other heel, bringing the other leg out to the side, toes up to the sky, dropping the chest forward as much as you can. And then as you walk the hands forward, drawing the shoulder blades down and back, dropping toes to the floor, feeling a deep stretch in the front of the quad, and then in the hamstring of the other leg. Hamstring and inner thigh. And we're going to stand up. One more warm-up movement, just ankle taps here, tapping the inside of the ankles. Give me about 20 total. I'll give you a moment to grab some water if you need it, and then we're going to get started on our strength. We're going to take things a little bit slower today because I really want to focus on making sure that we're making the muscle to mind connection and really engaging the muscles that we intend to be working, not overcompensating with other muscles if we have weakness. If we move too quickly through things, say in a squat, the lower back overcompensates for the glutes. So I really today I just want to move slowly and focus on the muscles that we intend to be working. If you're ready, getting centered in your mat, let's bring feet about hip width distance apart, a little bit outside of the hips is okay as well, depending on what your normal squat stance is. Some people like to squat with their feet a little bit closer, depends on the mobility of your hips. So I bring my feet a little bit outside of my hips, toes angled about 30 to 45 degrees out. We're going to do chair pose tap backs. So we're going to come deep into our squat position. And actually stability will be stronger the closer the feet are together. But if you have good balance, staying with your feet about just outside of your hips, and you're going to tap back. You're going to stay nice and low in your squat position. We're going to do 10 on each side, nice and slow. Keeping the core nice and tight. You are going to feel this a lot in the standing leg, of the glute of the standing leg. You're going to keep the shoulder blades drawn down and back, not bringing a lot of tension into the upper body. Keeping the core tight, not arching the low back here. That's when we start to put pressure on the low back, keeping everything turned on, but really focusing on turning on the glutes in the standing leg. 10 on each side, and then switching sides. Keeping things nice and slow and controlled. And if you fall out of it, that is okay. If you're not feeling it, come a little bit deeper into the squat of the leg that's standing. Whatever's comfortable for you to do with your arms, you can do. If you need to bring them forward for more stability, keep them at the chest, bring them down to the side. Keeping the core nice and tight. The whole torso area should be turned on. That will support the glutes. And then I'm going to give you guys an option. I have my bed here, so it makes things a little bit easier. I actually may use this instead. We're going to do Bulgarian split squats. So if you happen to have access to a chair or a couch or a bed, that's great. Otherwise, I'm just going to have you do stationary lunges. So you'll just be here in your lunge position, and you're going to bring the knee down. You're not going to bring the foot in between lunges. You're just going to lightly tap the floor with the knee, keeping a nice vertical shin, and really engaging the glutes. Rib cages drop down, core is tight. If you do have the means to do Bulgarian split squat, one foot is elevated. The other leg, we want to make sure that when we come down here, the knee's not coming over the toes. It's okay if it comes a little bit in front of the ankle, but we want it to not come over the toes. This back knee will be at a 30 or 45-degree angle, and we're gonna come down. Preferably, I'd like a nice flat, the thighs to be nice and flat here, parallel to the floor. If you can come that low, that's great. If you can come to about here, that's fine. Most importantly, I don't want the chest flaring here. So you want to keep the rib cage dropped down, the core turned on, and we're just here, coming. Let's do 10 reps on each side. And like I said, other option is to do stationary lunges if you don't have the means to elevate your foot. You will feel this a lot in your glutes. Nice and slow, really focusing on the glutes. If you want an extra added challenge, you can do a little pulse at the bottom, in between each one. The core has to be turned on in order for you to stay stable. If you're really unstable, bring your foot out to the side a little bit. The leg that's up, that will give you more stability as well. Not arching in the low back, keeping the pelvis tucked. If you only have 8, that's fine. You will also feel this in the quad of the leg that's back. That's normal. 8 to 10, whatever you have. Switching sides when you're ready. Always taking a few deep breaths in between so that the muscles have time to recover. Grabbing water if you need it. And switching legs. Try to do the same amount of reps on each side if you can. Keeping the pelvis tucked, the core turned on, rib cages drop down, chest is not flaring here. Deep breaths. Next movement, we're coming onto the floor. Always grabbing water when you need it. Doing whatever you need to take care of yourself. This movement can feel a little bit awkward at first, but we're going to come to a seated position. We're going to bring feet out in front of us, like so. Bringing the feet together if you can. Bring them as close to your groin as possible. So I don't want feet out here. I want them as close to the groin as possible. And then we're going to lay back onto our backs. We're going to bring our elbows to our sides, and we're going to have robot arms here. Nice 90-degree angle at the elbows. Make sure that the chest is not coming here. It's dropped down. Rib cage is dropped down. Core is turned on. And these are called frog pumps. So we're going to elevate the hips, and we're going to keep the feet on the ground. And we're going to do, let's say, 12 to 15, depending on how you're feeling. Shoot for 15. You're going to bring the hips up. Try not to bring the knees up too high. Try to keep the knees dropped down, and you're going to squeeze the butt at the top. Nice and slow, isolating the glutes. Try to breathe in at the bottom and squeeze out the breath at the top. Using the core. You may feel this in the hips a little bit too. because it will open up the hips. And if you can, not relaxing all the way down at the bottom here, try to keep the glutes engaged, just tapping the floor at the bottom. Nice and slow and controlled. Deep breaths. Nice work. Excuse me for moving on if you're not finished yet. I cannot see you, but no rush. You can always catch up if you want to keep going through movement a little bit more. Our last movement for our lower body is a squat walk to bear. So we're going to start at the back of your mat or wherever you're stationed. You're going to come down into a deep squat position. You're going to take 3 or 4 steps forward, not too wide, maybe about a foot apart. You're going to pause when you come to the front, and then you're going to take 3 or 4 steps back, keeping the glutes turned on, trying to keep weight in the heels. So each time you step, really pressing through your heels, and then when you come back, you're going to come into a bear position. You can either walk your hands out to a bear, knees about 1 inch off the floor, pulling the shoulder blades apart, or you can fall into it and use arm strength to press yourself back up. We're going to do 12 total of those, walking forward and back, and then into a bear position. Staying nice and low in your squat, keeping the core turned on, really thinking about engaging the glutes. Feet are as wide as it's comfortable for you. Try and stay nice and low in your squat. If you need to take a break in between, halfway, that's totally fine. I'm going to do 3 or 4 more. If you feel any pain in the low back, come out of it a little bit. You can still engage the glutes coming a little bit higher here. That is our last movement for lower body, and we're going to go through all of that one more time. And then we have a few upper body movements where we'll be on the floor. I'm going to give you guys about 30 seconds or so just to catch your breath, drink some water, and recover. Just because we're taking things nice and slow does not mean that we are not challenging our bodies. Interesting to feel that when you're not, even if you're not doing a lot of cardio, jumping, Really, your intention is not to get the heart rate high, but when you're really working the muscles and being mindful that you're turning on the right muscles, you will get the heart rate up. And recovery is so important. Really making sure that the muscles have a chance to get oxygen, there's enough blood flow before we start our next set. All right, back to our chair pose top backs. Coming as deep as you can into your squat position, getting about 10 on each side. I'm really gonna keep the feet hip width distance here. You play with your stance. If you're really stable, bring them a little bit wider. Not arching the low back, keeping the pelvis tucked. Everything is nice and in line here. And then just with our top backs, 10 on each side. Weight in the heel of the standing leg. And if you can go straight into the other side, that's great. If you need to take a break, that's fine as well. Very nice work. And then into our Bulgarian split squat, also reminding you, you have the option to be here in a stationary lunge, keeping a nice vertical shin in the front here, lightly tapping the back foot on the ground. 10 to 12 on each side, keeping the rib cage dropped. And try to start with the, if you can remember which leg you started with last time, try to start with the opposite leg. Same thing with our Bulgarian split squat, keeping a nice vertical shin in the front leg. Core turned on. Getting little pulses if you want an extra added challenge at the bottom. Being mindful of the core, working through the burn. It should feel good. Our glutes are some of the biggest muscles in our bodies. They help us with so much. You'll notice a difference. We were just speaking the other day about the difference it makes with anything, whether it's running, walking, hiking. When you work to strengthen your glutes, it gives you power to do more fluidly the things that you enjoy doing recreationally. So it's really worth this extra effort. And then coming down onto the floor, grabbing water if you need it, for your frog pumps. Bringing the heels as close as possible to the groin area. Laying down onto your back. Establishing your robot arms, trying to keep your elbows in close to your sides if possible. And then just pumping here, lightly tapping the floor with your glutes at the bottom. Give me 10 to 12. Squeezing your glutes, not using the low back, keeping the pelvis tucked so that we're not putting pressure on the low back. Try not to let the knees come up as much. They will come up a little bit when you're squeezing the glutes up. Don't forget to breathe. Rolling up slowly, being mindful of your spine, always when you roll up, out of position on your back. And our last movement for our legs, getting deep in our squat position, squat walking forward, staying as low as we can. Let's do 10 reps this time if we can, 8 if that's what's best for you. Staying as low as you can in your squat, taking little steps here. Keeping the core nice and tight. Becomes a little bit more difficult to stay mindful of our form when we're walking in our squat. We're not just standing, but still really important not to arch the low back too much. You'll feel this in the quads too, of course. If you need to stop at 8, grab water, catch your breath before we move on to lower body or upper body movements on the floor. Always taking pressure off the low back when necessary. If you feel it starting to cramp or feel too much pressure put on it, coming up out of your squat a little bit. And this is the last one. I will stop after this one. Beautiful work. Grabbing water and then coming onto the floor. Full body a little bit more on the floor. We're going to do some mountain climbers. Excuse me just for a moment. Mountain climbers, we're going to come into a high plank position. Wrists in line with the shoulders here. Feet together if possible. If you need more stability, it's okay to bring them wider. Be mindful of the low back, you're not arching here. Same as in our squat, everything is tucked and turned on. Mountain climbers, we're going to go 10, but slow and controlled. Bringing the knee up to meet the elbow. Trying to keep the foot elevated. If it hurts your hips to bring the leg out to the side, it's totally fine to keep the knee here. But still, really nice and slow and controlled. 5 on each side, so 10 total. Squeezing the core, squeezing the shoulder blades apart. Don't let the shoulders come up to the ears here. Draw them down and back. Very nice, catching your breath. We're gonna come right back to tabletop position. Coming to tabletop, making sure wrists are in line with the shoulders, knees in line with the hips as much as you can. Nice even table here, evenly distributing your weight through your fingers. You can press your feet into the floor. We're gonna lift one arm up. I will give people the option for regression here. You can lift one arm only and then the opposite leg, and you can switch through those. We're gonna do 20 total, so 10 on each side, alternating sides. And the full movement here is same or opposite arm and leg, being mindful that you're not bringing the back leg too high because then the lower back starts to arch. Keeping the core turned on, squeezing the glutes, and we're just gonna alternate sides for 20 reps, but not rushing through them, keeping them nice and slow and controlled. And you can flex the foot that comes up, and you'll feel more of a contraction in the glute. Counting to 20. Very nice. Our last movement for the floor here is a side plank crunches. So you can come off the knees, you can bring the hand to the hips here as long as the neck until the hips, everything is nice and in line, not coming too far forward or back. You're just gonna crunch. So you'll feel the work happening in the side of the abdominal muscles and the obliques here. Also try to make sure that the shoulders are staying in line with the elbow. Full movement here, coming up onto the feet, stacking the feet so one foot comes in front of the other, and we're just gonna get 10 crunches on each side. Be mindful the chest is not falling forward, keeping everything in line. Switching sides. Making sure everything's in line. We can bring the arm up if you want to. Squeezing the obliques at the top. Very good. Okay. Back to our controlled mountain climbers, taking a deep breath. High plank position, nice neutral neck. Be sure the neck is not dropping here. Nice and slow and controlled. 10 total. Squeezing the glutes as you come to the top. Very nice work. And then coming into our bird dogs. If you want to do a full bird dog for this round, if you felt like the last one was challenging, but you could use some more work, you can bring opposite arm and leg up, and you can add the crunch here in the middle. Just doing 10 on each side, and then switching sides. Otherwise, we're just alternating sides, doing 20 total. Not bringing the back leg too high. Nice straight arm and leg, reaching through the arm and leg as if something's pulling you apart from both directions when you come to the top. You can kind of round the spine if you're doing the crunches, squeezing the core in the middle. Very nice work. And lastly, before we do some stretching, our oblique crunches. So coming either onto the knees with the elbow in line with the shoulder, just crunching here. Knees are about a 45-degree angle if you're doing off the knees. Otherwise, you're off the feet. Keeping everything nice and in line like a board here. Don't have to bring the hips all the way down. 2 or 3 inches off the floor is fine. Switching sides. Very nice work, guys. Let's come into a child's pose. Get some stretches in here in 3 or 4 minutes that we have left. Open up the knees a little bit. Walk the hands out as far as you can sit forward and feel a nice opening of the hips, stretching in the low back and reaching the fingers as far forward as you can, curling them, and then you'll feel stretching the upper back as well. Trying to tuck the chin as much as you can. And just let everything go and breathe into it here. Deep breaths, try not to let the hips come up. If they come up a little bit, that's okay, but think about sending them back and down and walking fingertips forward. And we're gonna walk our hands to the left as far as you can with the minimal space you might have. And then stretching out the side body here. Feeling a stretch all the way down the obliques here. Trying to keep the hips seated back on the heels. 2 more deep breaths. You didn't switch sides already? Switch sides. And then we're going to come onto our backs. Stretch out the back of our legs a little bit. Feet about hip width distance apart, bringing the heels nice and close. You're going to cross one ankle over the knee. You can either stay here. If this is enough of a stretch for you, you can press into the knee to open things up. If you need more, and to really feel the stretch down the back of the hamstring here. And the low back, you'll feel it a little bit if you have any low back tightness. Clasping your hands around the other leg that's down here and then pulling back, but not letting this right hip come up. So still keeping things in line, trying to keep both sides of the hip on the floor and then squeezing that leg into you. If you can't reach all the way to the front of the other leg, you can just grab behind, clasping up the hamstrings here, pulling that leg into you. And if you need to also, some people still need more of a stretch, you can push a little bit into this knee, making sure that you're always keeping this foot flexed to protect this knee. Deep breathing and switching sides. Bringing feet back down to the floor if you need to. Crossing the ankle over the knee. Grabbing either the front of the leg, if you can reach, or the back of the hamstring. And then if you need a little added stretch, make sure you're flexing the foot here, and then you can press into the knee that's up. Staying mindful that both hips are staying on the floor. Breathing, breathing, breathing. And then we're just gonna stretch out the quads. I always stretch my quads out because we all have a tendency to have tightness in the psoas area from sitting. So just come up here into your low lunge position, hands at the inside of the feet. You can keep the foot down, keep the chest up, the core turned on, tucking the pelvis. If you really tuck the pelvis, you'll feel more of a stretch in the quad. And you can grab the back knee if you need more resistance, or sorry, the back foot. Switching sides. If anyone needs to go, please feel free, but this is our last stretch. If you are grabbing the back foot, try not to twist too much, still keeping the chest squared forward because it's not our goal here to open the chest. Very nice work, guys. That is all I have for you today. Thank you for coming on and moving with me today. I wish you all a happy Saturday and weekend.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.